feel like the state is trying to say, okay, if you want your speedy trial, guess what? We're not going to let you defend yourself. Guess what? You can't have any experts. And guess what else? You can't have any witnesses. You can't have anybody speak in your behalf. So good luck. Have a nice day.
That's why your prior attorneys and your current attorneys were asking for more time to prepare the case.
Doomsday Call mom Lori Daybell is preparing her defense for a mostly male jury. We've got a body language expert on the show this morning to break down just how she might manipulate them. Plus, in Dedham, Massachusetts, 2 jurors have been picked for the retrial of Karen Reed. We've got a live report for you coming up from outside of the courthouse in just a moment. Also this hour, photos of a boarded up, burned residence, giving us a glimpse inside of that Connecticut home where police say a woman kept her stepson in prison for decades. Plus, we're spotlighting the call for the death penalty for accused CEO assassin Luigi Mangione. We'll tell you what the Attorney General and Mangione's lawyer are saying about the ultimate punishment. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court, or maybe lunchtime if you're across the pond? That's what we do at this time every weekday morning. So grab your cup of coffee or whatever you're snacking on. It's time for my opening statement. Some people just don't know when to come in and out of the rain. Lori Daybell seems to be one of those special people. She invokes her right to a speedy trial, but then she complains that she doesn't have enough time to prepare for her speedy trial. So in other words, she sets her own clock, but she can't tell the time. I say quit your complaining, cult mom. You only have yourself to blame. Because a speedy trial provides zero advantage to a defendant like you who's serving three life sentences. There's no chance of getting out. So you should have just taken your time. And perhaps if you kept your appointed legal counsel, they would have made sure that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed before the trial begins. Once again, your problems bear your own fingerprints, cult mom. So now that this jury has been picked and the trial begins on Monday, she's got a few more days to get her act together. Personally, I think she's just nearing closer and closer to her 4th homicide case conviction. I also hope and I pray that Charles Vallow finally gets the justice that he deserves. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Can you talk a little bit more about those criminal charges? What's going on?
My wife accused me of having been violent.
Okay. And then she, what happened? She reported to the police?
In Massachusetts, we've got testimony resuming in the surgeon strangles his wife murder trial for Dr. Ingolf Turk. We're going to go there together at 9 a.m. Eastern. In Michigan, we've got the battered and burned murder retrial for defendant Linda Sturmer. That one starts up at 9 a.m. Eastern as well. And in Georgia, we've got defendant Jesus Monroy's bond hearing set for 9 a.m. Eastern time. He's accused of strangling 16-year-old Mia Campos. Her family's been fighting for justice for her, and with his new set of charges, we'll see whether he stays in jail or gets a bond. Now, let's turn to our top story together as jury selection resumes this morning for defendant Karen Reed. 2 jurors, 1 man and 1 woman, have been seated in the case so far, and Reed returned to the courthouse on Tuesday for what's expected to be a weeks-long jury selection process. Local Boston station WCVB spoke to the defendant during her lunch break.
I'm here. We're fighting. We'll keep fighting. I feel strong, so I feel good.
How do you feel about the former juror who's actually on your team now?
I'm sorry that I have these pickle chips in my mouth, but I feel just another resource. How did this land? How did even jury selection go for the jurors, the prospective jurors? So just another resource that we're utilizing.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to have her a part of your team?
I just feel lucky. I'm not paying any of these people. They're not asking for anything. They're spending time away from their children, and my lawyers are mentioning for me to come back.
All right, so we got our look at Karen Reed's newest attorney when all of the lawyers introduced themselves to the prospective jurors. Victoria George is her name, and she was an alternate juror in Reed's first trial. She wished she was one of the deliberating jurors, but she was not, and now she is part of the team, even though she is not a practicing criminal defense attorney, no experience as a prosecutor either. But perhaps she can offer some insight into what jurors may be best for the Reed team. So let's talk about that. They're looking to get 16 to 18 jurors seated to hear this case. And guess what? A friend of this program was inside of the courtroom watching it all. I want to welcome him on now for some discussion. The creator and the host of Road Patrol Live, nationally known radio host John DePietro is with us outside of the courthouse. And also this morning, so pleased to have on the show criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matthew Timpanek, someone who's been giving us legal analysis throughout the progression of this case. Welcome to you both. John, let me begin with you. Tell us, what was it like inside of that courtroom yesterday?
You know, Julie, because of the gag order that's in place, people should, to me, the defense it's all about imaging. And what you see now with Victoria George is she's leading with Karen walking in. And then when they came out, Alan Jackson and David and Eddie, they even went a different way. So it's all a female angle. When she stood up, you'd almost think that she was going to say she's actually Karen's bestie. Now, as they were at sidebar with Judge Cannoni and Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, also Adam Lally, and they're questioning the prospective jurors, at one point Karen Reed was up next to them. For the most part, she was at the defense table. And Victoria George, Julie, it's almost as if she's always next to Karen Reed. Now, the way I interpret that, court sources that I've spoken to, in the first trial last spring, a number of people, females, as you can imagine, but it's specifically Victoria George, they had a hard time and they couldn't get past some of the language of Trooper Michael Proctor. I think this is an indication that they're really going to try to go with a female angle. It's almost like the girl squad. It's not Karen and her high-priced male attorneys. This time, the visual, since there's a gag order, the visual is of Karen Reed, and then she's surrounded by two female attorneys. But it's very serious. The Commonwealth deserves a lot of credit. Ran very smoothly yesterday. But it's also remarkable, Julian, it can't be lost. You know, when they're saying to people, and Judge Cannoni is saying this trial could be 6 to 8 weeks of your life, there's a lot of people, they don't want to be part of that. That's a huge commitment, whether it's childcare or work or hardship, whatever it may be. And when many of them were told you are dismissed from this jury, you know, it's a good thing you're not standing near the exit or you get bowled over. But make no mistake about it, this whole trial, this retrial has a different feel. Hank Brennan, very much in command yesterday. I found he had the loudest voice anytime that they were speaking. But I think the defense is looking for a different angle, and they're looking to maybe even soften up Karen Reed a little bit and surround her with some more of the female attorneys.
That's probably really smart. John, that's such sharp analysis. I really wasn't seeing it that way, so thank you for that great insight all around. Matt Timpanek, let me ask you about the practical, technical side of this. Adding this woman who has no experience in the world of criminal law. Her experience comes from sitting as a juror. An easier way to do it, perhaps, if she wants to be a friend to the defense team, they could certainly call her every day, ask her questions, put her in more of a consulting role. But Matt, as you know, they put her on the legal team. Why do you think that is?
I definitely think because this is an individual who sat through the first trial. They heard every piece of evidence so she can analyze in real time what she was thinking, how this witness played, how this witness was helpful, how they were hurtful, how Trooper Michael Proctor's testimony played with her specifically, how the accident reconstructionist, so they can find places where it's like this person heard it from an attorney standpoint, from a juror standpoint, and they know where to focus on in the second trial.
That's really smart. And so, okay, so she can kind of look at everything through the lens of a juror, since that's really her frame of reference. That's her best experience here that she can offer to this case. John, let me go back to you, please, with the difference is outside of the courthouse. We've got a larger buffer zone, that shot that we're used to seeing from the opposite vantage point of where you're standing right now, you know, close to the building. we're used to seeing lots of people and lots of action. Different this time. Would you kind of describe how it feels outside of the zone where you're present this morning?
Night and day. I mean, the power of prayer, Julie. This is anyone that's attended has been praying for this. Now, you know, coming up, you're going to cover, I saw Kevin Reddington yesterday in the hallway. There's other important trials that are going on. The fact that they have moved them and created more and a much more strict buffer zone, you know, the court they're conducting important trials. They're doing business. It's just far more of business as usual. The people that were gathered outside, I mean, I'll just tell you, it was difficult. You know, they follow you to your car. They fill me to the car. From the moment I would arrive to the moment I'd leave, you're being followed by people. They're yelling obscenities. They're putting trash on your car. This time, they are way down, out of sight. I think it just creates a more serious atmosphere. You also don't have the big walk-up. If Karen Reed, she'd go through the gauntlet and she's high-fiving people as she's going into the courthouse. So far, that has been eliminated. But you can't deny, and this was an issue last time. Inside the courtroom, we could hear the people outside. If you came out, it was very intimidating when you'd see these throngs of people, and they are crude. They're more like fans at a football game. They're vile. They're yelling obscenities. They're honking horns. They're waving signs. It would be very intimidating. I find the buffer zone so far, Massachusetts State Police, Julie, they deserve a lot of credit. This is go time. The Commonwealth is ready. They told me yesterday they learned a lot from that first trial. This time around, it's far more conducive for a serious trial. It's not so much of a circus.
Right. John, my friend, you and Matt, you both know this. You know your voice holds power when people try to silence you. And I'm not sure why there can't just be support for Karen Reed and why there has to also be a tax for anyone who wants to cite the evidence, cite the facts that substantiate the Commonwealth's position of her hitting her boyfriend with her car while she was driving drunk. Matt Timpanic, let me ask you, some of her supporters are saying this buffer zone is unconstitutional and they are angry about it and they want to be able to yell things at the people who are coming in. Is there a constitutionality problem?
I don't think there is, because I think what you have is a tight time, place, and manner situation. It's like, all right, we've already seen what's happened in the first trial, that the O'Keefe family and many of the victims and the victim in this case, his family, and the witnesses were subject to harassment. It's like, that's not what trials are about. That's not what they should be about. You can exercise your First Amendment rights while not abusing the alleged victim's family. So this buffer zone is supposed to protect them and to protect those who want to exercise their constitutional First Amendment rights.
You're exactly right, my friend. You know, there have been people, I know you and John are both aware of this, Matt, there have been people, one of them we've seen, you know, blasting it all over social media, Turtle Boy with a megaphone at the last trial, talking about wanting to taint the jury, specifically wanting to poison the pool of people. And so, Matt, doesn't Judge Cannoni have a really difficult job in protecting this thing from becoming more of a circus than it already is?
I think it's going to be interesting this time around because, remember, Aidan Kearney is listed as a witness in the Commonwealth's case. So he's going to be under the same rule of sequestration as all the other witnesses. So if he's kind of sidelined or kind of taken out of the equation, I don't know if you're going to see that same kind of rah-rah circus the first time and just more and more people just, I don't know if he's not there, if they're going to have that same kind of vibrancy when yelling obscenities and harassing victims, allegedly harassing the victim's family.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. It's deplorable. It's deplorable what's gone on. And those charges, very, very serious that he's facing. I don't think it's talked about enough. I think everyone should go read that indictment against him. John, you've read it. Matt, you've read it as well. But John, back to you on this point. These witnesses in the first trial, these innocent people who just happened to be out enjoying the night with her friend, John O'Keefe, have been relentlessly attacked, viciously bullied, their lives turned upside down. And we know Hank Brennan, John, he still has yet to file that motion, right? He gave the indications that he's going to be looking to introduce the messages between Turtle Boy and Karen Reed, his consciousness of her guilt, to show that why employ him to harass people allegedly if you did nothing wrong. John, remind me, it seemed like the other day they were still in the process of getting those messages to Hank Brennan, right? That's why we haven't seen the motion. Am I correct on that?
You are correct, Julie. And, you know, something that shouldn't be missed here is Karen Reed, the accusation, she was leaking grand jury testimony. I know some people would say, well, what's the big deal? She was giving the names of witnesses and their addresses and where they live and their license plates. That's something that's public knowledge. Well, not if it's in a secret grand jury where suddenly the witness would know in public. That is not something that is often seen. And I come back to what was the motivation for Karen Reed to do that? And I think Hank Brennan is going in the right direction with that, with the conscience of guilt. Why was Karen Reed, why was she making it known that the witnesses were Brian Albert and Jen McCabe and all these people? These were secret grand jury, you know, proceedings. It's possible the motivation was she wanted them targeted. She wanted them harassed. Remember, there was no guarantee that this was going to go to trial. They kept insisting this thing would never go to trial. And it did seem to be an attempt to try to put pressure on these witnesses to then get the Commonwealth to just, you know, back down and not take her to trial. But I believe this all stems from Karen Reed. And Julie, you know, as Hank Brennan pointed out in that Body of Snow docuseries, she is seen laughing and has no sympathy towards the witnesses. And at any moment, she could say the O'Keefes are off limits. She's never done that.
Right. You're right. Excellent points, John. She laughed about the witness intimidation, and she's never visited John's grave. What does that say? And I love your point about the motivation. I think you're so right. As we end this discussion for now, think about the motivation. I encourage everyone watching this case, think about the motivation of the people launching these attacks. Why might they want to do that? Is anybody being paid? Does anybody have an interest in promoting a lie? Motivation is always something I think we should question. John DePietro, Matt Timpanik, thank you for the great discussion. My friends at home, be sure to follow both of them as this trial is set to kick off very soon once we get that jury. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon. Coming up next here on Opening Statements.
My dog. I got my dog.
I know. Come on.
I'm coming.
You're seeing it. Got one victim right here.
Newly released photos. Just look at this inside of the house where a woman allegedly held her stepson captive for decades. My goodness, we're going to dissect all of this. And the federal government now pursuing the death penalty against defendant Luigi Mangione. So we'll talk about what this could mean for his high-profile case.
Lori Daybell.
Already convicted for the murders of her children.
Doomsday cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
She really thinks she's equipped to try this case.
She appears very sure of herself.
I have real trial experience.
It's going to be a strange trial. We'll see how it plays out.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial, next week following jury selection, only on Court TV.
Who's in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
Help him out.
Listen,
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come out. Come down the road. Come on, come on.
The captive stepson case is what's trending in true crime this morning as investigators are releasing crime scene photographs. And the defense is calling foul on the shocking public rollout. So Kim Sullivan facing multiple charges, including unlawful restraint and kidnapping after her stepson claims she held him captive for 2 decades. 2 decades in their Connecticut home. The 32-year-old man was rescued and emaciated, let me tell you, emaciated, after he set this fire to his bedroom to try to help him get free. Just let that sink in. So now, look at these. Investigators are sharing these photographs taken after the rescue of the young man. And you see the damage, my gosh, inside of this home. Some of the photos, you can see locks on doors where the man was allegedly being imprisoned. Ms. Sullivan's defense attorney is arguing that the release of these photographs are, his words, quite frankly, ethically questionable. Take a look.
Exterior locks on multiple doors. Some are a latch. A lot just had a simple keychain. Ask yourself, is that the restraint that's going to keep someone captive 20 years? Where are the handcuffs? Where are the chains? Where are the signs of restraint? Those pictures raise a lot of questions if you look at them objectively. If you haven't rushed to judgment, if you don't look at this through the lens of everything that has been said about my client is true, and you step back for a second, you're going to see that a lot of things don't add up.
So are we supposed to believe this man was starving in a happy home? Let's talk about how damaging these photographs are to Kim Sullivan's case. Let me welcome in our legal eagles. Joining me, attorneys Jennifer Brandt and Franz Borchardt. Good morning to you both. All right, so let's talk about these photos and the defense attorney speaking out. Franz, let me begin with you here. So sounds like he's denying that this man was held captive. What did you think after hearing that little presser he held yesterday?
Well, we eat with our eyes first. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. And the problem is when you prosecute a defense, when you zealously represent your client and make some of these arguments, if you're a juror or a normal person, you're like, okay, well, if he wasn't being starved and he wasn't being held prisoner, help me understand what was going on. And if you don't have a good answer to that, even though it's not your burden, that's going to be a problem and a giant red flag. And I think that that's going to be the defense's problem. Now, look, this is a defensible case. There are arguments and defenses on this one, but the problem's going to be jurors always want to know the why of, okay, well, if it's not this, well, why was this going on? And I don't know if there's a good explanation.
Right, Franz. I mean, as you're talking, this is the bedroom. Let's show it again. The bedroom where this 32-year-old man was staying and allegedly being imprisoned. I mean, my gosh, is this any way to live? And when he was found emaciated, in terrible shape. So this attorney, in my view, you know, can talk all he wants about what didn't happen in the house, but looking at this, something bad was happening in there. My gosh. Jennifer Brandt, talk to us, please, about your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, I think looking at the whole house, it certainly raises the issue of, you know, mental health. What was going on with the defendant? I mean, clearly, you're not only talking about a situation where there's one room that looks like it was, you know, really the person was restrained and the locks on the door, but the whole house just seems to be so cluttered and just in disarray. And so, you know, are there mental health issues going on here? Maybe that's where the defense should be going instead of, you know, challenging whether, you know, somebody was locked in or not, or the strength of the locks on the door. Clearly, we see that there were locks on many, many doors in this house. So, you know, as we pointed out, it sort of goes along with the story that this person was held captive and starved. But, you know, what was going on with the defendant? Seems like there's some serious mental health issues going on, and maybe that's the direction that the defense should think about, as opposed to just saying that it didn't happen.
You're right, Jennifer. Really important point there. Thank you for that. Something else I was thinking about is hearing him, and he's kind of denying the ability for captivity with the locks and all that. Okay, 2 words, coercive control. I have a clip from Ms. Sullivan's last bond hearing where one of the prosecutors is talking about how the victim still fears her. Let's take a look.
This victim is afraid. This victim lives in fear. I introduced myself to the victim, explained who I was. His first question in this fear is, why is she out walking around when I was locked up in a room for 20 years? He is following this on TV and social media, so he is aware of what's happening, and I say that because it would lead to his fear.
That's a great question. Franz Borchardt, what do you think about that?
It's a good question. Why is she out? Well, here's the issue. She's still presumed innocent, and while she may look 50 shades of guilty with that dungeon-like house, she is presumed innocent, and there are some arguments for reasonable doubt. Jennifer's right. I love the mental health component of this. That would be what I would be leaning into, that there was something going on, and maybe she's not guilty not because of the allegation, but she's not guilty for a legal reason, and mental health may play a huge role in this. It's hard, though. It's hard to talk out of both sides of your mouth, though, and say, well, no, she wasn't treating him this way, and there's not all these things here. Oh, yeah, by the way, mental health may be an issue, too. It doesn't work well. It's not good optics, and I think they are missing an opportunity. Now, again, that may be what she wants. This may be the route that she wants as a defense, and she may not want a mental health defense. So, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, So I don't know. This is a weird one, Julie.
Yeah, it really is. It's really, really sad. And I think something that really made me pause and reflect on this was how that prosecutor said this victim is still terrified. And we have to think back. So he would have been 12 years old when this all allegedly began. So think about this was his normal and what he became conditioned to. Incredibly sad. You both made great points today. We've got to leave it there for time's sake, but you both are coming with us. Jennifer Brandt, Franz Borghardt, thank you so much. Still to come here on Opening Statements. Here's what we've got. Oh, we've got accused assassin Luigi Mangione now looking at the death penalty in his federal case. We'll talk about it. And counselor cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell's got her mostly male jury seated. We're talking with a jury consultant about how Ms. Vallow just might try to manipulate them. Following breaking news out of New York City as police are searching for a gunman.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back.
The defendant is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree.
And it's completely out of touch and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
The government is seeking death, a bombshell development in the case against Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, this is the first time the Justice Department has sought to bring the death penalty since President Donald Trump returned to office. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying in part, quote, Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. After careful consideration, I have directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty. So let's talk about where this case goes from here. Let me bring back in attorneys Jennifer Brandt and Franz Borghardt. Okay, first, let's start with your reactions to this move. Jennifer, to you first, please.
Well, like many things that are going on in our world, it's controversial because Luigi Mangione has a lot of support, especially from younger people. Clearly, what he did was wrong, and it did shock all of us. I mean, to kill someone like that, walking on the street, but a lot of people look at it for what it represents. The little guy against corporate America, against the healthcare industry, health insurance companies. So people, have contributed to his legal fund. I think he's raised $700,000. So there's a lot of, people who feel that he did somewhat of the right thing or made a statement. So it's a controversial decision now to seek the death penalty, especially because during Biden's administration, there was a moratorium on the death penalty, on the federal death penalty. So it's certainly raising a lot of conversation. We're talking about it, and so will many others for this decision.
Right. Great points, Jennifer. I have part of the statement that Luigi Mangione's attorney issued with this news, saying, by seeking to murder Luigi Mangione, the Justice Department has moved from the dysfunctional to the barbaric. Their decision to execute Luigi is political. The attorney goes on to say the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. Okay, that's one way of looking at it, and we've got to look at the facts of his case as well. Franz Borghardt, your reaction to the news of seeking capital punishment for him?
Well, that's one quote you could use, but if I'm the prosecutor, I'm probably using the same quote to describe Luigi. A political assassination, barbaric. Gross. The thing I struggle with is, as someone who's done death penalty work, and look, the federal system has the same hurdles that the state court systems do when you're trying to seek the death penalty. The thing I struggle with is this the case? Is this the test pilot case for the federal government to reinstitute death penalties? With him being such a dividing defendant. And by dividing, I mean there are people that hate him, and there are people that Julie love him and don't think he did anything wrong. And the question becomes, are they going to be able to see a unanimous jury that's going to give him the death penalty? And I think that's going to be the difficult part, not the guilt phase. The guilt phase is pretty easy on this one. The penalty phase is what I think is going to be uphill. And look, you know what? Just because it's difficult doesn't mean a good prosecutor or a good Department of Justice doesn't try to seek justice. I'm just wondering, is this the case?
I'm with you, Franz. Here's a clip of one of Luigi Mangione's attorneys talking about how this is going to be hard to get a fair trial, and she wants to make sure he has a fair trial.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he's entitled to a presumption of innocence.
She's right. She's right. He's legally presumed innocent. He does deserve a fair trial. That is for sure. Jennifer, tell me, the way I see this, I think the government has the bigger concern of not getting a fair-minded jury. What do you think?
That's exactly my thought as well. I mean, there's been so much publicity about this, and we're talking here even about his supporters and people coming out saying that they support what he did and they think it's the right thing. And there's been a lot on that. So I do think we almost are, a lot of people are sort of forgetting what we saw initially. Somebody coming out, on the street in the morning and shooting a man in the back. I mean, that seems to have disappeared, and now we're talking about more political issues, business issues, and what's right and what's wrong in that vein, as opposed to the crime itself. So I think the government is going to have a hard time keeping people focused on the act that happened and shooting somebody, no matter who it was, whether he's a CEO of an insurance company or a man walking on the street. The way that went down is pretty scary in itself.
You're absolutely right. Great points. I wonder if the news of capital punishment pursuit will nudge Luigi Mangione and his lawyers to think about a plea. Just a thought. Just a thought. We have to leave it there for now. Jennifer Brandt, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know we got to let you go. Franz is coming along with us. We're grateful for that. Up next, here on Opening Statements, we're talking about Cult Mom. Our body language expert coming on next to break down Cult Mom's moves and missteps.
The acid test of this prosecution is not a matter of determining if the defendant is guilty of the crimes that the defendant is charged, but rather, was any crime even committed? And where is this evidence?
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
And it's stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict?
We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage coming soon following jury selection on Court TV.
Welcome back. Opening statements are set to start on Monday in the murder trial of doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. But could a mostly male jury tip the scales of justice? So there are 13 men and 3 women on Daybell's jury in Arizona as she's standing trial accused of committing the crime of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. Jury selection was expected to take at least a week, but only ended up taking 2 days, despite Daybell's many complaints.
I feel like the state is trying to say, okay, if you want your speedy trial, guess what? We're not going to let you defend yourself. Guess what? You can't have any experts. And guess what else? You can't have any witnesses. You can't have anybody speak in your behalf. So good luck. Have a nice day.
Oh, she's done a lot of complaining there. So the trial's moving forward full steam ahead. What's going to happen with this jury? Might she try to manipulate them? Let's bring in jury consultant and human behavior expert and author Susan Constantine, and still with us, attorney Franz Borghardt. All right, Susan, let me start with you. Lori's got a history of manipulation. Do you think she uses it with the jury?
Yes, I think that she's going to be using this big time. We're going to see a performance of a lifetime. I think that she thinks that she's going to walk in there, she's going to woo those men jurors and manipulate them. But I think it's going to really backfire, because I was thinking, why in the world would the state keep on that many men? And then it occurred to me, she's feeding right into their plan, and that is they're going to obliviate her, because the state is going to help them hate her so much. And also, there's probably not one guy that's going to be on the jury that hasn't had some sort of psycho woman in their life at some point in time. And they're going to transfer that onto what they see in Lori Vallow.
Ooh, such sharp analysis. I love it, Susan. I want to talk about an issue that's come up in court. A cult mom's upset because she has to wear a shock belt when she's moving about the courtroom trying her case. Just a reminder for anybody unaware, she's acting as her own lawyer. Let's take a little glimpse at some of what she said to the judge.
I ordered that you don't have to wear the leg restraint, but that you do have to wear the rack belt, because that is not going to be visible to the jury. The leg restraint's a little more cumbersome and visible, and since you're representing yourself and you're going to need to approach the podium and those sorts of things, I ordered the removal of the leg restraint. You will, though, wear the rack belt. And then I said it's up to the sheriff's office. If they want to, they can position.
Looks like a very reasonable judge to me. Franz, what do you think about his decision?
I think this judge is doing great. He is putting up with a toddler who's having tantrums, and each time he's kind of like, well, this is kind of why, if you had attorneys, this could kind of help. This is actually, and that's a part of this. If she had attorneys, no one would ever know that she was restrained. She could have an ankle or belt on, and no one would ever know on that jury. The fact that she is representing herself doesn't mean we just throw security out the window, and we don't treat her any differently. She's not a special unicorn in that respect. So, right decision. Like, she is a convicted murderer doing how many life sentences? We don't just let her traipse around the courtroom.
Right.
This is one of the many reasons why having counsel, a learned, licensed, experienced attorney or team of attorneys, might be something you choose to do if you're facing murder charges.
Amen, Franz. Amen. Susan, I want you to weigh in, please, on the shock belt. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the thing is that she feels that she's got special treatment, right? That why in the world should I have the shock belt on? Why should I have the shackles on my ankles? Why should I even have that? Because she thinks she's special. But on the other hand, she's going to be up there at the podium anyway. They're not even going to be able to see it. But she is a convicted, she's being tried for, which actually she is a convicted murderer. And the fact that she thinks she's getting special treatment is just really unbelievable to me. Her feistiness and her snarkiness and her, she feels that she's so owning of so much that's going on in that courtroom. It's going to really backfire on her big time. I just see it happening. I can't wait to see it happen in real life right here on Court TV.
Oh, I know. Get ready. Pop the popcorn, my friends, right? Pop the popcorn. This is just, it's going to be incredible watching this. Susan, tell me, in terms of her look, and for anybody who doesn't know, we talk about optics and appearance with every single defendant. Some people are commenting on how is her hair able to look so good and freshly highlighted when she's in prison? And we know she was a hairstylist. We're trying to figure it out. Would love for you to weigh in on the look and any ideas as to how she may be accomplishing that behind bars.
You know, it's hard to know because I'm thinking to myself, is she putting lemon juice on it? Is she getting, she's getting lemon juices and there's lightening her hair naturally. Obviously, they've come up with some sort of solution that's going to be lightening her hair because I don't believe they actually have hairdressers that are highlighting their hair and making an appointment with a hairdresser in prison, okay?
Right.
But I think that overall, the fact that she's curling her hair, I don't have any issue with that. The problem is that she comes across so flirty and so glamorous that could be a real turnoff. But on the other hand, people like looking at pretty people. And we have to admit, L'Oreal is a pretty good looking woman, especially when she's got makeup and her hair's done.
Right. Susan, yeah, she's very attractive. I think that was some of the attraction to the case for people. Was in the Mrs. Texas pageant. I'm not sure if she placed or won, but we know she at least competed. And there are beautiful pictures and video from her when she did that. It's so stunning to everybody around her who knew her in what seems like, a lifetime ago that she would be in this position having committed these murders. Franz, tell me, how much do you think the optics are going to play in here if Lori is going to flirt with the jury and try to look her best? How much of an effect do you think that's going to have on the men and women on her jury making the fact-finding decisions?
I think that there is a turnoff to an individual situated as she is, representing herself. It smacks of narcissism, it smacks of manipulation, and the kicker is that is going to be the narrative. And it fits her representing herself. I'm smartest person in the room, nobody can do a better job than me. I'm gonna flirt. I think it's gonna be annoying, and I think it's gonna fit into the state's narrative. And that's the irony of this. She thinks she's gonna manipulate everybody. The truth is, it's going to have the opposite effect. And I agree. I agree with the excellent commentary on jury consulting. I think guys are going to be turned off on that. I'm not comfortable making commentary on my own dating life or hair based on my current hair situation. But I will say,
you're the best,
beauty takes a backseat to crazy. And that is going to be the problem.
Quote of the day right there. Beauty takes a back seat to crazy. I love it. Susan, you could perhaps use that in some of your consulting work. I love this. And Franz, I want to dovetail off of another great point you made. You said it reeks of narcissism, right? Her representing herself, trying to put on a show. Susan, studying her behavior, I'm curious, do you see narcissistic traits being exhibited?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it reeks of it. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the overconfidence that she has, thinking that, in fact, I've even heard her talking to the judge, like, I have all kinds of experience. I've studied law. She really thinks that she is the smartest person in the room. What's going to happen is when you're looking at her facial expression, she put her, hair is all done up and everything else, and she's smirking and snarking. It begins to show her personality and also the dark side of her and the manipulative side to her. So all of this is going to be seen visually as if you're watching a motion picture movie. It's all playing into this narcissistic personality disorder. She's disassociated from who she really is, and she's created this false identity. And they're going to see it. It's so obvious. And as I said, pop the popcorn. Let's watch.
Let's watch. It all begins on Monday. I can't wait to talk to you both again next week after this one kicks off. Incredible analysis, as always, from you both. Susan Constantine, Franz Borghardt, thank you both so much. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. But guess what? If you liked it, you can watch it again, share it, tell your friends. We're here every weekday morning to have coffee and court with you on your favorite network, Court TV.